Welcome to AK Anime Explainer. Today is explanation of Soul Land 3, Legend of the Dragon King Part 217. Without any delay, start explanation. Yi Xinglan had always been observing this archipelago. She was searching for the island that resembled the one on the map provided by the Academy. As they looked in the direction of her pointing finger, there was indeed a larger island that was similar to the one on the map. There was no need for Tang Wulin to give an order. Yu Jingyu and Yuan and Yehui had already adjusted their directions and they glided toward the island. They were currently about a few thousand meters in the sky and were descending slowly. Suddenly, the seven of them felt their bodies tremble at the same time. It was as if some invisible object had propped them up for a moment. Shortly after, the space around them distorted slightly for a brief moment. They then continued their gradual descent. For a passing moment, Tang Wulin and the others felt a little confused. However, on the North Sea Army Corps radars, the seven of them had vanished. The gravitational force intensified noticeably. It pulled on all seven of them, and they fell at a quicker pace. Tang Wulin yelled in a deep voice, "Stay calm everyone, we'll be all right." Xiaoyan, Star Chain. Xu Xiaoyan's body shone with her soul ring's glow. She unleashed her fourth soul skill, the brilliant golden star chain, which swiftly connected all of them together. When they leaped out of the aircraft, they were roughly 3,000 meters above the ground. From a height of 3,000 meters, if they did a free fall without wings, the longest it would take was 2 minutes before they would crash onto the ground. Even with the wings, only 5 minutes had passed before they almost touched the ground. Yuan and Yehui and Yu Jingyu had eaten the bloodthirst bean buns. They were flapping their wings with all their might as they tried to stabilize their bodies so that they would not be smashed to pieces when they landed. Tang Wulin acted as the hub as he connected everyone via his thick vines. He was very calm. He was barely flustered by the situation they were in. The closer they were to the ground, the clearer their view became. The ground was completely black, but it was not made of rocks or soil. On the island where the mountain ranges rose and fell, plants covered the terrain. Surprisingly, these plants were black as well. That was why, from afar, the island resembled a black monster. With the enhancements of their battle armors, Yu Jingyu and Yuan and Yehui managed to stabilize themselves despite the stronger gravitational force. They flew toward their targeted island as they got closer to the ground. "Everyone, brace yourselves." As Tang Wulin shouted the reminder, the 5 soul rings on his body glowed faintly. Bluish-golden blue-silver emperor vines extended from his body in increasing numbers. When they were about to hit the ground, Yuan and Yehui and Yu Jingyu flapped their wings rapidly to break their momentum. However, the 7 of them were still charging toward the ground like meteors chasing after the moon. At this very moment, the second soul ring on Tang Wulin's body suddenly shone brightly. The blue-silver emperor vines immediately became as thick as a person's thighs. The instant the vines touched the ground, they bent downward. With the strong resilience of the elastic vines, they drastically dampened the impact of Tang Wulin's fall, acting like a cushion to soften the landing. A beam of golden light resembling a golden little dragon shone brightly. It pushed hard against the ground, and the powerful rebound sent Tang Wulin flying again. He shook his arms, and the blue-silver emperor that was wrapped around his comrades shook as well. Immediately, they were flung back into the air again. Thus, the impact forces were dissipated. They hovered in the air for a brief moment before they dropped to the ground, albeit slowly this time. He retracted his blue-silver emperor once all of them landed safely. They were more scared than hurt. "This is truly exhilarating," Xie cried out excitedly. It was truly exhilarating as it was everyone's first experience of skydiving. However, the whole sequence of events was still within their manageable range. Although Tang Wulin was not the pilot, he was the mastermind who coordinated their strategies and ensured everything went well. It was truly a stroke of genius, especially when he unleashed the Overlord Dragon. That was what enabled them to shake the fighter aircraft and mechas off their tails. If not for the sudden high-speed dip, it would not have been easy for them to break free of the roundup. The North Sea Army Corps was not an easy organization to deal with. "How's everyone?" asked Tang Wulin. "We're all right." The others signaled gestures to Tang Wulin indicating they were fine. They were all one-word battle armor masters. Although they were subjected to the impact force upon landing, the defensive abilities of their battle armors were sufficient to protect them. Tang Wulin gestured and the others quickly gathered in a formation around him. Tang Wulin, Yi Xinglan, Yu Jingyu, and Yuan and Yehui surrounded the other three. It was only now during the brief respite that they could observe their surroundings better. The sea northeast of the continent was freezing. That was why this island was mainly covered by coniferous forests which appeared a luxurious green. The only depressing thing was that all the trees, vegetation cover, and even the ground itself were completely pitch black as ink. It struck fear into their hearts when they looked at it. It was as if there were a multitude of ghost shadows lurking in the landscape. Tang Wulin squinted his eyes slightly. He unleashed his spiritual power and felt the aura of his surroundings. He noticed that although everything here was black, it was not filled with a dense, dark element aura. Everything was quite normal. It was not much different from any typical forest. What's with this place? Tang Wulin's heart wavered slightly. Since this place was known as Demon Island, there must be something unique about it. The so-called military training of the academy in this place could not possibly have been coincidental. Even Elder Cai and the others had unpleasant experiences back then when they were here. It was not difficult to speculate which of the experts who became hyperduluos were exceedingly talented and outstanding people when they were youths. "Captain, what do we do now?" Xie asked softly. Tang Wulin replied, "Let's take turns to rest. First, we'll need some time to recover and be in tip-top condition." They could not plow on blindly. Yuan and Yehui and Yu Jingyu had just consumed bloodthirst bean buns just now, and they were very much spent. The others were also exhausted to varying degrees. The landing just now had given them quite a shock both physically and mentally. It was apparent that they needed to calm their spirits before they attempted anything else. Xu Xiaoyan, Xu Lixi, and Xie sat down first to recover their soul powers. The other four formed a circle around them. Tang Wulin's third soul ring lit up with circles of light spreading outward from him, the blue-silver-golden array. It possessed the ability of elemental stripping and a collective powerful controlling soul skill. "Jingyu, Yuan, you guys can take a rest as well. It should be fine with Exhilarating and I standing guard." "Okay." The after-effects of the bloodthirst bin buns began manifesting themselves. Although the cultivation bases of both Yuan and Yehui and Yu Jingyu were not weak, they had still expended much of their energies. Yu Jingyu, in particular, had used sacrifice before this which consumed much of his life energy. After his all-out effort just now, he was truly exhausted. Purple light flickered within Tang Wulin's eyes. He unleashed purple demon eyes and surveyed his surroundings carefully. Then, he silently extended his blue-silver emperor outward as he felt the life source on this island. Ever since his spiritual powers reached the realm of Spirit Abyss, his senses were more sensitive than before. Especially after it was combined with the blue-silver emperor, it was quite easy for him to communicate with the flora. At this moment, Xie, who was the first to sit down, suddenly opened his eyes. He uttered with fright, "Why isn't there any origin energy? I can't recover my soul power." His voice barely faded when the others opened their eyes as well. Their eyes also displayed shock. They had the same feeling. On this island, they did not feel the presence of any origin energy. A thought flashed through Tang Wulin's mind. He hastily focused his mind to sense it. It was true. Demon Island was empty. He did not need the blue-silver-golden array. It seemed like this place had already undergone elemental stripping. All the other auras were normal, but origin energies were nowhere to be found. Without origin energy, they had no source energy to restore their cultivation bases. Soul power could be depleted unless they do not utilize any soul power at all. However, how was that possible? As a soul master, especially one who had already attained the rank of a soul king, one would be unconsciously expending one's soul powers. Utilizing one's soul power to protect one's body was the norm in one's daily life. Moreover, the cultivation of the mysterious heaven method was a continuous process. One's soul powers would be used constantly. Although the dissipation of one's soul power would be at low levels, it was still a depletion. If one were in a place with absolutely no origin energy, one did not even have to expend one's soul powers, for it would gradually run dry. Yu Jingyu's expression changed as he said, "Is this the legendary Forbidden Land?" Tang Wulin looked at him. "What's this about a forbidden land?" Yu Jingyu said in a deep voice, "It's written in our clan's ancient records. During the primordial era, some places were punished by the divine realm due to their special nature, and these places turned into forbidden lands. They were stripped of any existence of life. It was impossible for any kind of origin energy to be formed on such lands. But clearly, there are plants here. If this is a forbidden land, there shouldn't be plants here." Tang Wulin smiled bitterly. "I'm afraid you're right. I have not sensed any life source from the plants around here. Where they landed was a piece of land that was relatively flat. The pitch-black forest was not far away from them." Tang Wulin walked quickly toward it. When he pressed his palm against a large tree, it was cold to the touch. Putting aside the fact that there was no life source that came from it, a dense feeling of deathly stillness arose instantly from it. If it were not for Tang Wulin's extremely strong life source and blood essence, his body would have certainly suffered some damage being tainted with this death aura. "These trees aren't real, it's as if they were all carbonized. They are as tough as metallic rocks, but they don't have an ounce of life source within them." Tang Wulin's brows were tightly knitted. If there were no origin energy, there was no point for them to cultivate here. The others gathered around Tang Wulin. Xu Xiaoyan posed a question, "Captain, without origin energy, other than affecting our soul powers, will it affect our life energy as well? Or should I say, will it affect our blood essence power?" Tang Wulin smiled bitterly. "It will. Everything relies on origin energy to survive, there's no doubting this point. Water and sunlight are the sources of life. The energies they possess are nourishment to the life force. In a place where there is no life force, our own life source will be constantly depleted. It won't affect us much in the short term, but if this goes on, I'm afraid we'll turn into dried carcasses here, or maybe we'll be carbonized like the plants here." When Tang Wulin said this, everyone's expression changed. "Then what should we do?" Xie Xie asked, slightly fidgety. Tang Wulin drew a deep breath. "Since the academy sent us to do our military training here, they certainly wouldn't send us here to die. Besides, we still have no idea where our military training is actually at. From the view above, this archipelago is completely black, even the seas around it are black. However, beyond 300 meters, the seas return to their normal colors. I can infer from this that we should be able to sense origin energy around the normal colored seas. In other words, we can try to absorb some origin energy from the normal seas to restore ourselves when the time comes." Yi Xinglan smiled. "You always manage to be so calm. I think the situation is like what you just said." Tang Wulin returned the smile. "I'm actually worried as well, but there's no point in me worrying about this. I still need to face it. All right, since we can't absorb origin energy to restore ourselves, we'll first make for the beach. After all, we arrived within the stipulated time frame. The first obstacle, Golden Path, should be over. We'll go have a look at the beach first, and then Zhengyu and Yuanan can fly out to see if my judgment was right or wrong." All this was due to the inexplicable pressure the pitch-black island gave them. For the moment, they were still unable to get to the bottom of the situation. It was undoubtedly very important for them to find a way out of the current situation. That was why Tang Wulin was in no hurry to scout the island. They landed on the fringes of the island. After they had gotten hold of their bearings, they did not have to walk far to where they could already see the ocean. It was two starkly contrasting feelings to look at the black seas from the skies and from the ground. It was even more shocking for them since they were the ones actually experiencing the situation. The waves rippled and broke against the shore. The seawater, which was pitch black as ink, appeared like a terrifying deep abyss. It seemed to be able to swallow a person whole at any moment. Tang Wulin unleashed one blue-silver emperor and sent it into the sea. The blue-silver emperor had just touched the surface of the water when Tang Wulin suddenly felt his body shook. Shortly after, a terrifying suction force came from the sea. The stamina and blood essence power within Tang Wulin immediately surged out of his body like a swarm of bees along this blue-silver emperor. He quickly lifted the blue-silver emperor out of the water. However, within this short span of time, the blue-silver emperor's tip had already turned grayish-white. Whatever you do, don't come into contact with this seawater. The seawater will consume all of your origin energy. Once you come into contact with it, it'll accelerate the depletion of your origin energy. Tang Wulin felt very fortunate that they did not drop directly into this black seawater just now. If that were the case, once they touched the water, their depletion would have increased multiple-fold. Yuan and Yehui said, "We'll go check it out." Tang Wulin nodded, "Be careful. Turn back immediately the moment you feel something's off." Yuan and Yehui nodded. The fallen angel's wings were unleashed behind her. She flapped lightly and flew into the skies. Then, she slowly hovered over the patch of black seawater. She was in midair above the sea surface when the black mist suddenly appeared faintly on her body. Yuan and Yehui hastily flapped her wings and flew to a higher altitude. Only then did the black mist on her body dissipate somewhat. Then, she flew further away. She traversed the distance of 300 meters rather quickly. Between islands, other than the black seawater, some patches of clear sea still existed due to the large distances between the islands. Yuan and Yehui finally flew out of the 300-meter range. However, in that instant, a figure suddenly disappeared. She disappeared? Yuan and Xie was greatly worried. He called out her name with anxious tones. Tang Wulin grabbed him, "Don't panic. Let's wait and see." How could Xie not panic? He was about to say something when a shadow moved swiftly and Yuan and Yehui reappeared far away. Then, she flapped her wings strongly and shot back toward her companions like an arrow. She landed lightly. It was only then that Xie heaved a sigh of relief. He quickly walked up to her. "Yuan, you hurt?" "I'm not." Yuan shook her head. "The situation is more or less like what our captain inferred. As expected, there is origin energy once I flew out of the 300-meter range and enter the area of the normal seas. However, there are extremely ferocious oceanic soul beasts in the normal seas. I felt like I was in a trance as if I had exited this world, then I saw a huge bloody mouth which opened toward me. Its aura was very strong. After that, I came back as quickly as I could. It's strange. That oceanic soul beast was extremely powerful, but it dared not come into contact with the Black Sea on this side. Nonetheless, if we want to go out, it won't be easy as well." Tang Wulin had a slight frown. "Do you guys have the feeling that this place resembles a prisoner's cage as if it's imprisoning something? There was no origin energy on the inside while there were ferocious oceanic soul beasts on the outside. From Yuan and Yehui's reconnaissance just now, they could surmise that this island seemed to be located within some barrier." "Yeah, it does." Yu Jingyu nodded. "In any case, I don't feel too comfortable here. I reckon that you guys feel the same. There's no origin energy here, and everything's filled with a dead stillness. It's truly uncomfortable. Why don't we go take a look further on the island?" Tang Wulin shook his head. "There's no hurry. The dangers outside are mainly from the oceanic soul beasts. Usually, oceanic soul beasts can't leave the ocean. We'll have to look for a way out first. Yuan, can you try again? Fly out from a greater height this time, and see if you're attacked by the oceanic soul beast again." "Okay." Yuan and Yehui agreed. She flapped her wings and flew to a greater height in the skies. However, she had not even started to fly out toward the Black Sea when, all of a sudden, her body which had just reached a height of 100 meters fell. Although she beat her wings desperately, she only managed to stabilize herself once she reached a height of 50 meters. "Flight prohibition!" Yuan and Yehui exclaimed with fright. "There seems to be an invisible barrier up there. I only flew up to around 100 meters when I felt as if I was swatted by someone. Thank goodness my reflexes were quick enough." Prisoner's cage. These two words appeared in the minds of everyone again. Only these two words could aptly describe their current predicament. They could not rise into the skies nor go out over the sea. They could come in, but they could not get out. Furthermore, they are running low on origin energy. If that were the case, would waiting for their demise be the only option? Tang Wulin made a decision. Let's go. We'll go further into the island and have a look. He firmly believed in one thing from the beginning until the end. Since the Academy sent them here for their military training, the Academy must have its aim and reasons. It would be irrational for the Academy to just put them in a prisoner's cage for no reason at all. When he thought of this, Tang Wulin led the way and walked toward the depths of Demon Island. There were no roads on the island, only pitch-black forests. They had no way of making out the directions. They could only head in the general direction of the internal regions of the island. After they entered the forest, the dead stillness Tang Wulin became even more apparent. The surrounding ambience was gloomy, but most of the gloominess was assuaged by Tang Wulin, who walked at the front. The Golden Dragon King bloodline aura of his entire body was as vigorous as the blazing sun. It dissipated most of the gloomy stillness away as he led his comrades along their way. There was no need for Tang Wulin to remind them. Everyone was trying their level best to conserve their spiritual powers. They were controlling them so that their soul powers would not flow naturally. They must save their soul powers for the most crucial of moments. If they could not find a spot on the island where they can connect to origin energy, they would have to think of a way to overcome this quandary as soon as possible. As Tang Wulin walked, he observed the skies. They had borrowed the aircraft early in the morning to embark on this journey of theirs. The skies were brightening up. At least, when he looked outward from the island, there was nothing different. What kind of powerful force was able to turn an ordinary thriving island into this? It was obvious that it was not done by humans. It would have been meaningless for the Federation to do this. If it were not done by humans, then the phenomena on Demon Archipelago must have been a natural occurrence. If that were the case, what would have been the cause? Could it be that there was some huge soul circuit on this island which continuously stripped the air of origin energy? If this were the case, then how could the Black Sea be explained? The Black Sea itself had the terrifying ability to absorb all energy. After having walked for 2 hours, everyone's body was covered in sweat. However, to conserve their soul powers, they did not utilize their soul powers to move faster. They brought a certain amount of food in the soul storage tools, but they had consumed quite a lot of their rations when they were being detained. They had not the chance to replenish their resources yet, so they could only do their best to consume their rations conservatively. "Let's rest for a bit here," Tang Wulin said with a deep voice. Overall, he was the least affected among them. His powerful Golden Dragon King bloodline aura would not be greatly affected in the short term. Even so, if this went on long enough, he would not be able to endure it. Unless he broke through his next layer of Golden Dragon King seal, he could not withstand the effects of the terrain continuously. Tang Wulin quickly climbed up a large tree beside him. When he reached a higher spot, he looked in the faraway direction. The black forest seemed to be endless. When he looked toward the internal parts of Demon Island, he could faintly make out a purplish-black mass. A purplish-black mass? What's that? He had only taken a glance, but Tang Wulin felt a strong fear welling up within him. It made him feel as if his body would be torn to pieces. What a powerful energy! Since it had energy, its energy must have been a part of origin energy. That spot might very well be the breakthrough point. When he thought about this, Tang Wulin felt greatly relieved. After he returned to the ground, he immediately conveyed what he saw to his comrades. They rested for a while and ate something before they resumed their journey. This time, they finally had a clear direction. They walked for another 2 hours and finally exited the Black Forest. However, the ground was still pitch black and the darkness spread far and wide. From their vantage point on the ground, they could see the purplish-black mass far away. The purplish-black glow was faint and gave them a terrifying still quiescence. "What is that?" Shu Lishi asked softly. Yu Jingyu frowned. "I don't feel well here. It's as if my entire body's going to be torn to pieces, it's that kind of a feeling." "Me too." Shu Xiaoyan was panting. Yu Jingyu hastily stood in front of her and acted as a shield. Only then did she feel better. Let's retreat back to the forest. Tang Wulin immediately gave the order when he saw his comrades displaying pained expressions. He felt the same sensations as well. Due to his Golden Dragon King bloodline aura, which was vigorous enough, he did not feel as sick as his comrades did. They retreated into the forest. With the trees acting as a shield, they felt much better. That aura is really terrifying, but it doesn't look like any attribute of energy which we've encountered before. What exactly is that? Asked Yi Xinglan with a deep voice. Tang Wulin said, we can only be sure upon closer inspection. You guys wait here, I'll go over and have a look. Captain. Xie Xie grabbed Tang Wulin. I'll go. I'm quick, and I'll use my battle armor. Even if there's something amiss, I can still make it back as quickly as possible. Tang Wulin shook his head. Sure, you're quick, but your resistance is weak. I have the support of my bloodline power. Don't worry, I'll be fine. In terms of bodily resistance, it was true that nobody could beat Tang Wulin, not even Yuan and Yehui. Tang Wulin drew a deep breath and no longer conserved his energy. His one-word battle armor covered his entire body, and his golden mask slowly closed, effectively isolating him from the outside world. His dense blood essence wave also filled the air. Tang Wulin moved swiftly and left the forest. He did not pause. Instead, he abruptly sprinted toward the purplish-black glow. As expected, with the protection of his battle armor, he felt much better. However, Tang Wulin could still feel the potency of the energy that seemed to be able to crush everything. It was getting closer to him and also increasing in intensity. His soul power merged perfectly with his blood essence power. It flowed swiftly according to the mysterious heaven method. Tang Wulin wiped his forehead with his right hand and the golden dragon spear appeared in his grip. Its tip was pointed straight ahead. A golden halo in the shape of an umbrella appeared in front of him with the golden dragon spear as the tip. It split the terrifying aura as much as possible. When the pressure reduced slightly, Tang Wulin accelerated again. He could feel that his soul power and blood essence power were being consumed at an extremely fast pace. They were not being absorbed. On the contrary, they were expended to resist the terrifying aura. He was getting closer. After he had dashed out for 1,000 meters, he could feel that the surrounding air was fragmented. When the fragmented air brushed against his body, it felt like small sharp blades continuously cutting into his body. He had no choice but to expend more energy to resist them. Dragon scale patterns started appearing on his one-word battle armor. Left without a choice, Tang Wulin unleashed the golden dragon body. A deep dragon's roar surrounded his body and managed to keep the powerful shattering sensation at bay. Suddenly, he felt as if he had charged into a void. Shortly after, everything in front of him turned purplish black. His body seemed to have been swallowed by something. His body shook abruptly. The terrifying pressure which he felt before this vanished instantly. His entire body went light. He had arrived at another world. Tang Wulin panted heavily. He was gulping for air. At that very instant, he felt as if his body had been completely torn to pieces. Even his battle armor was on the verge of breaking. Currently, all the pressure he felt before this had completely vanished. It made him feel as if he was about to collapse. After he rested for a while, he noticed that he was in a huge mountain valley. Surprisingly, the interior of the valley was not pitch black. Luxuriant green plants grew all around him. Far away, a huge purplish-black column shot toward the skies. When he saw it, the fear within him resurfaced. However, what surprised Tang Wulin was that there was origin energy in this place. Also, he could feel that the density of life source in here was much higher than the outside world. He had a plant-type martial soul. His senses toward the life source were heightened. He need only to take a deep breath and he was completely rejuvenated. Not bad, you're able to enter without being guided, a slightly hoarse voice sounded. Tang Wulin was startled. When he turned around to look, he noticed an elder who was looking at him with his head askance. He looked quite old. He was around 108 centimeters in height with a slight hunch. His slightly messy hair hung down and his face was full of wrinkles. Put another way, he had wrinkled skin and white hair. He held a walking stick in one hand, but his eyes were lucid. For his age, they were not dim in the slightest. As he was old, Tang Wulin barely managed to discern from the facial expression that he seemed to be smiling. Tang Wulin hastily said, "Hello there. I'm Tang Wulin from Shrek Academy." The elder nodded slightly. I know. Shrek Academy, right? Young man, you look very handsome." Tang Wulin scratched his head. "Senior, can you tell me what place this is?" The elder replied, "This is Demon Island. It's a place where demons live." After he finished this sentence, he broke into laughter. A place where demons lived? A thought flashed across Tang Wulin's mind. He could not feel the slightest threat coming from this elder before him. He could not even sense an ounce of an energy wave from him. He appeared like an ordinary elder who was old and ailing like a candle in the wind. Tang Wulin said, "The academy sent us to Demon Island for our military training. May I know what the military training entails?" The elder shook his head. "I'm not in charge of all those details, but there's someone here who is. By the way, it's been a very long time since your academy has sent someone here. Everybody's waiting for you. Come, follow me, I'll bring you there." As he said this, he turned around. He supported his body with his walking stick and teetered toward the depths of the valley. "Senior, wait up. I have other comrades." "What about them? Can I go and bring them here?" Tang Wulin asked. The elder stopped in his tracks. "You can bring them here?" Tang Wulin smiled bitterly. "I'll have to go back out first. But I don't know how to get out of here." The elder chuckled. "So, it's best if you follow me first. You can't go out from here." He then continued walking toward the depths of the valley. Tang Wulin said nothing more. He hastily caught up with the elder and supported him of his own accord. This old man looked as if it was rather difficult for him to walk as he was teetering. Tang Wulin supported his armpits gently to reduce the strain his body weight was putting on his legs. "Senior, shall I carry you on my back?" said Tang Wulin. "Sure," said the old man frankly. Tang Wulin squatted down to carry the elder on his back. The old man was light. With Tang Wulin's strength, he seemed weightless. Head there. What a kind young man you're. But I must remind you, on Demon Island, kindness will get you nowhere. It might even bring you trouble." The elder's voice came from behind him. Tang Wulin only smiled. He continued walking quickly in the direction pointed by the elder. The valley was wide, and the surface of the ground was not flat. Various kinds of plants grew well here. Tang Wulin had not come across many of the plants before. Also, he noticed with surprise that his blood essence power was restored between his breaths due to the overly dense life source here. He did not even have to meditate for that purpose. At the same time, it spurred the mysterious heaven method into flowing within him, and it gradually recovered from its previous depletion as well. As expected, the academy would not find a place where it was impossible for them to survive for their military training. Tang Wulin walked very fast because he wanted to find the exit as soon as possible and bring his comrades here. He knew that if he did not go out soon enough, everybody would be flustered when he was gone too long. They walked through the forest and Tang Wulin had almost completely recovered his cultivation base. The terrain before them suddenly sloped down. The ground surface also turned into a swathe of purplish black. What shocked him even more was that Tang Wulin saw the source of the gigantic purplish black light column. It was a colossal mineral rock which had an asymmetrical shape. It protruded from the ground inside the valley, the top portion exposed. The terrifying purplish black light column extended skyward from the mineral rock. When he saw the rock, Tang Wulin felt an intense pain searing across his entire body. His body and soul felt as if they were about to fall apart. With a muffled grunt, he knelt to the ground on one knee. Golden dragon scales appeared with the stimulus and swiftly covered his entire body. His battle armor was also unleashed in the next instant. Under their protection, Tang Wulin finally felt better. Eh? The elder on Tang Wulin's back exclaimed with surprise. In the next moment, Tang Wulin had already risen to his feet again. "Senior, are you all right?" He could not see the peculiar gaze of the elder behind him. "Oh, I'm fine. I've already gotten used to everything here," said the elder. "You're truly not bad. There aren't many who could resist the destruction rock at first sight. Most people would have fainted." "I thought that you'd faint too." Tang Wulin was slightly stunned. "Faint? Since he knew that I could have fainted, why didn't he warn?" His thoughts stopped abruptly when his field of vision suddenly went dark. He had no recollection of what happened afterward. Tang Wulin fell limply to the ground. The elder retracted his hand which had hit Tang Wulin's neck. "What a foolish young man. How can such a foolish young man survive if he were to be put at our mercy? He's truly unafraid of dying being so friendly with a stranger. Nightmare, come out, come out. Throw this young man out. I want to see how he's going to bring those comrades of his into this place." A figure seemingly walked out of thin air and stood before the white-haired elder. He too was an elder. He looked not much younger than the white-haired elder, but his physique looked much tougher. "Blight, is this the young man from this batch? Did he come in here himself?" Nightmare pointed at Tang Wulin, who still had his battle armor on. "Yeah. He came in himself. He seems not too bad. Throw him out. We'll see if he can bring his comrades in here by himself." The elder named Blight waved his hand. "Why me? Why can't you do it?" Nightmare said with great dissatisfaction. Blight sniggered. "It's because you can't beat me. It's that simple." Nightmare glared. A faint, black airflow appeared around him. However, he returned to normal immediately. He hoisted Tang Wulin from the ground. "I don't have time for you. It's rare that we've gotten some little toys. I don't have time to spare for an old geezer like you." After he finished, his body swayed, and he vanished into thin air in the next instant. Blight rubbed his hands together. His clear eyes were filled with excitement. "Yes? It's rare that we've gotten some little toys. I won't let them go that easily this time. How can I let them linger on the verge of collapsing but not collapse no matter what happens? This is a very interesting question. My skills are quite rusty. I guess I'll just have to brush up my skills." When Tang Wulin came to, he was surrounded by worried gazes. Were these not his comrades? "Captain, you're awake." Xie called out excitedly when he saw that Tang Wulin had regained consciousness. Tang Wulin swiftly rolled over and sat up. He rubbed his neck. Apart from that, he did not feel any discomfort elsewhere in his body. "How did I come back?" Yu Zhenyu shrugged. "You just flew back here from the outside like a cannonball. It was Yuan who caught you. What happened? Did you discover anything?" Tang Wulin hummed for a moment, then he recounted his experience. "Could it have been an illusion?" Yi Xinglan asked. Tang Wulin shook his head. "No, it was not an illusion. My soul power and blood essence power had truly recovered. The dense life source of that place can't be faked. That place must be where we're supposed to go for our military training. We must somehow find a way in." "Okay." Everyone had not restored their soul powers here, whereas Tang Wulin's current condition was already at its peak. Tang Wulin said to Shu Lishi, "Give everyone 2 recovery pork buns so that they can replenish their stamina until they're in peak condition. Then, give everyone a bloodthirst bin bun just in case. Also, give everyone a crystal bun each. After making all these buns, can your soul power still support your battle armor's maximum defense?" Shu Lishi replied, "No problem. I'd only spent a small amount before this. I can do it." Crystal bun was Shu Lishi's 5th soul skill. After it was eaten, the consumer would have a layer of crystallite protective layer on the surface of his body for 1 minute. It would double the consumer's maximum defensive ability. However, the crystal bun also had its own problems. The time needed to make it was longer. It was very difficult to make it during a fight. It must be prepared beforehand. This was also the reason why Xu Lixi could not make them in time for everyone when they faced the evil soul masters the other day. The production of a single bun took 10 minutes. It also put a great toll on his soul power. However, the effects of the crystal bun also worked on him. While Xu Lixi made recovery pork buns for everyone to eat and replenish their stamina, Tang Wulin began to make arrangements for their exploit later. After he thought about it carefully, he came up with a plan. In terms of cultivation base, everyone had 5 rings. However, in terms of soul power, Yuan Yehui was already at rank 58. She was the closest to rank 60. Yi Xinglan was at rank 56. The others were mostly around rank 55. Only Tang Wulin himself was still at rank 51. It was not much of a problem with soul powers. The most important part was the endurance of their bodies. This video will end here. Like video and subscribe to my channel.